All right, ready? Society has a disgust and an abhorrence for religious leaders that fail, for religious leaders that break the norms and they fail the morality and the values of society. And they do things that are completely unacceptable. I found a quote by Solzhenitsyn who says something incredible, which is completely counterintuitive. And what he says is that society will not be judged on its industrial development, but rather its spiritual development. And I found that incredibly interesting because in a society that is a liberal humanistic society, to think about something spiritual and think about something that goes beyond the physical, I thought it's quite astounding. But perhaps that's the reason why society abhors religious leaders that turn off. I was involved in a community institution, had an altercation, I had a difference, and I threw a tantrum. Now, the thing about tantrums that adults throw are usually more vicious and sophisticated and damaging. They're not like children. And after this, on a Wednesday afternoon in April 2014, I was picked up by a couple of policemen, and I was taken off to the holding cells in Cape Town jail, where I spent 3 days. And that is a fascinatingly hideous experience, because besides for the fact that one can't walk 4 meters in any direction for 3 days, that sleep is elusive. My anxiety kicked in 3 days. Perhaps I slept 3 or 4 hours. Also, they figured that a short, fat, bald Jew would not be able to survive, so I was on suicide watch. When I think about the food, I still retch. My digestive system looked at the toilet and said, hell no, that's not going to happen. And so you lose everything, and you wonder what you really do have at that moment. When I left jail, I had nothing. I'd had five positions in the community. I now had absolutely no income whatsoever. No income, I had no reputation, and I had no skills. But there was one thing that I did feel. And my life was saved by my wife, who's sitting over here, who's one of the most astounding human beings that I know. And what she said to me was, she said, Bryan, I know what you're thinking. You want to commit suicide. And it's true, I did want to commit suicide, because I felt it would be so much better for my kids to have pity than for people to say that those are the children, their father's shameful. Those are the children of this rabbi who did what he did. And she said, if you do that, if you commit suicide, I'm telling you now that our kids and myself will never, ever remember you. We will never memorialize you. We'll never light a candle on the date that you died. But if you don't commit suicide, we will be there all along the way. And so my path to redemption started. And the first thing I did was write a letter. And I wrote a letter to every Jewish institution that I could. And I laid bare exactly what I had done. And it had been known, but I needed to make sure that it was in public, and I took full responsibility for every single thing without any excuse whatsoever. And I knew it would go around the world, and it did go around the world. And I would get letters from people from America, from Israel, from Australia, from Europe, and many of them would say, thank you for writing that, because it was disgusting what you did, but we're happy to see you wrote it. And many of them would write things that were beyond disgusting, and they would say that you're a shame, and that you're a desecration to God's name, and you're a desecration to your people. But I needed to do that. And the second thing that I needed to do was that I needed to accept the humiliation that was going to be handed out in public, and that was, I would walk into places and people would turn away and they wouldn't look at me. I'd put out my hand to shake people, to shake people's hands, and they would turn away and they wouldn't do it. Or they would whisper behind my back, and I wouldn't be invited to things that otherwise I wouldn't have been invited to. And people would just randomly come up and say very mean things to me. But I knew that I needed to endure that. I needed to endure and allow society to be able to feel, and to be able to feel that justice was being done, like taking off my shirt and being beaten in public. And that was what I had to do to find redemption in the community, and I did. And the community, to a large extent today, there's many people that still hate me, and there's many people that still find me shameful. But nevertheless, we have been embraced by the community. And that's the first redemption, about finding redemption in the community. And the next is finding personal redemption. And that was difficult. And what my psychologist said to me is, you need to forgive yourself. And I said, obviously I forgive myself. I know what I went through, and I forgive myself. He said, you don't. And I said, I do forgive myself. He said, except when I walk into a room, I often look around the room and I say, I wonder what that person's thinking or that person's thinking. And I lower my head in shame. And he said, you do not forgive yourself. So I said, what the hell does that mean? How do I forgive myself? said it's subconscious. I said, well, that doesn't really help me. How do I forgive myself? And the way that I found a way to forgive myself, and it took me 7 years later, that I was able to look back and I was able to see what myself and my family had produced. And I could face the world and I could say that we had got our family through. We got 7 children, thank God, and we've got a daughter-in-law, and our family have moved on, and we're all educated, and we've all moved on, and we've all found fulfillment, and we all found our different places within society. And in feeling that pride, that this is who I am, that even when I feel shame now, when someone says something to me about how shameful I am, that I can feel proud and say, yes, that is. However, that is not my essence. That is not my essence. I'm far beyond that. And my final area of finding redemption was with God. And God is not my bestie. However, and if I had a Facebook page with God, it would say relationship complicated. However, I can't not believe in God. I believe that God created the world. He created me. I think I have pretty cogent arguments to make why God exists. But what I raged against God in a Thomas Dillon kind of way. I raged against God. Why did I have bipolar? Why did I have to experience what I did when I was young in my family? Why, when I asked for help, was there no one to give me help? And I raged against God. But I overcame that redemption by looking at the blessing that I received. And I have to tell you, when people tell me, they say, look at the blessing that you've got in your life, that when you get up in the morning, you've got 2 eyes and you've got 2 ears and you've got a nose. And that's what I think about that kind of thing, because life is too complicated and too painful and too difficult, and that's not what it is. The blessing was, when I look back on the 9 years that we experienced, and I look back, we cannot logically explain how we got through, how we managed to attend our child's wedding without being able to explain how the money appeared on our account. And when I look back and I see that God's hand embracing our family, embracing a broken family, and winking at us and allowing us through, that is the blessing, looking back and not being able to explain how we got to where we got to. And therefore, to finish off, is that redemption is 3 places: redemption with self, redemption in family, and redemption with God. And without finding redemption in 3 places, I don't believe we can find redemption.
Just take it.